Hey, it's Oz here, and in this quick video, I'm going to answer the question, are FBA courses worth it? So stick around and find out the conclusion. Okay, so right now, FBA as a business model is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people, one of the, if not the single best online business that a solopreneur can get into. It ticks all the boxes that match that entrepreneurial lifestyle. Naturally, a lot of people want to jump in, and that's great. But the question is always, should I spend some money on a course, on an FBA course, or just try and figure this out for myself? Well, there are always two paths, and these are the ones that you see on your screen. There is the DIY, which is the do-it-yourself, which is exactly what I've just described. And there is the invest path, which is where you put some money down and buy some information. Okay, so let's dig deeper into each process and see what each entails. We'll start with the DIY. So you're doing this yourself. There is always a learning curve. So in this case, we're talking about Amazon FBA. So your first hurdle would be to figure out how to sign up to Seller Central to become a seller. And you can find the page online easy enough, but you'll probably have to spend some time reading the terms and conditions and familiarizing yourself with the process. And of course, once you get through, providing you don't hit any problems, then you're going to go onto another learning curve, and that is how to use the dashboard. The dashboard is quite extensive. It does cover a lot of things, and like most things, it can feel a bit daunting at the beginning. Of course, you'll get used to it at some point, but you have to spend the time trying to figure out what everything is. And of course, each time you go into a different area of the dashboard, that learning curve is always there. You have to figure out what each area does and how it does it and how you're supposed to use everything. So there are learning curves all along the way at every step. Okay, so beyond that, the next step, unfortunately, is mistakes. You will make mistakes. You're literally going forward into uncharted waters. You're doing something that you've never done before, and you've had no instruction on how to do it. Well, of course, you're going to make mistakes, which takes us to the next phase, which is to learn from those mistakes. Once you realize you've made a mistake, you need to really extract some wisdom from that lesson. And unfortunately, in the DIY model, this is a constant process. You can see an arrow here going back to the learning curve, which then leads you to the mistakes and then to the learning process, and it goes on and on in a loop. But hopefully you'll keep learning as you go. They do say you learn from your mistakes, and that is very true. So finally, when you've learned enough, you should reach a goal, if not your goal. And that's pretty much the DIY model. Unfortunately, there is no set time for accomplishing this. It will take some people longer than others because there is a little bit of luck involved. You may do things right intuitively, or you may just get lucky and do those things right, or you may make a lot of mistakes, which will cost you time. But you know, it is what it is. You're not paying with money, but you are paying with time and probably stress. Okay, so let's move on to the other model, which is to invest in some training. Okay, so the first step there is to learn. You learn the information that you're given, and that's really all there is to it. The next step after that is to execute on the information that you've learned. And that basically means putting into action the things that you're learning. And the final step from there is to reach the goal. A goal, if not the goal. Okay, so you can see that the invest model is shorter than the DIY model. And that is because you're actually buying time. When you buy information, you're actually exchanging money for time. I know that sounds poetic, and well, it is. Now, as I said at the beginning, there isn't really a right or wrong path. It really depends on you and your circumstances. But in my opinion, when you buy training, you're really buying packaged information. And when you think about it, if you had to do something, let's say you have to build a wall and you have no idea about bricklaying, then why wouldn't you spend half a day learning from a professional bricklayer what to do? I would, because I want to make sure that when I build a wall, it doesn't fall on me. And that's exactly the problem with the DIY model. If you've figured out how to do something yourself and it's a complex process, then chances are that many parts of that process are suboptimal. And that basically means that had somebody who knew the process inside out taught you, they would have probably taught you not just the information, the how to, but also giving you part of their experience, which means that you end up with the best or an optimal way of doing something. And the problem with the DIY model is that you never know if what you're doing is the best way to do it. So to sum this whole thing up, when it comes to Amazon FBA, you stand to make a lot of money, but you also stand to lose a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. And if I had to do this all over again, if I had to start again with Amazon, I would invest every single time. Now, that said, there are some good courses and there are probably some poor courses. I don't know about the poor courses because I invested in the best that I could find, which at the time was the most expensive, but it was well worth it. I've never looked back. Now I'm going to put a link in the description below this video, and that's going to take you to my FBA resources, which include my free FBA guides, as well as the tools that I use in my FBA business, as well as any training that I personally recommend. So if you're willing to invest in your FBA business, then do check the link in the description because it's going to help you out. Okay, that's going to do it for this session. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and that way you can keep up to date with all these musings. Take it easy, and I shall catch you in the next video.